Okay, so in this video, I'm just going to go over short assignments number 1 and number 2. The big thing for short assignment number 1 is being able to write up an operationally defined problem and also looking at a standardized measure. So there's a couple different vignettes that I've posted here. The first one is about Jim, and he is somebody who has been diagnosed with alcohol dependency. And after 2 weeks of receiving inpatient detoxification, Jim is currently abstinent, but is back at your agency seeking treatment and is concerned about returning to drinking and would like to remain abstinent. So based on this, you could operationally define his problem in a number of ways. You could put something like standard alcoholic drinks consumed per day, number of cravings to drink alcohol per day, number of days abstinent within a week. Depending on how severe his problem is, you could use a few different ways to write this up. The second one is Jane. She is working at an agency that's trying to recruit more volunteers. So below, you could write her problem out as something like number of new volunteers recruited per week or number of older adult volunteers recruited per month. Just basically writing up the behavior that you're trying to measure and the frequency of measurement. So pretty simple. This is an assignment that's just hoping to get you a little bit more comfortable with completing an operationally defined problem. And again, if you do have any problems writing this up, you'll get one chance to redo this within a week of getting your feedback. And the last part of short assignment 1 is to look at a standardized measure that I posted online, the multi-ethnic identity measurement, which is a 14-item measure. You'll want to look at what the coefficient alpha is, and based on the norms or the standards posted on the website, is this very good, acceptable, or poor? Also, what is the research evidence to support the concurrent validity of the MEIM? And if you were a social worker in the field, why would you administer this to a client? So if you pull up the measurement, there's an introduction paragraph about why you might use this measurement. And as you scroll to the bottom, you can see what the authors have posted about the validity, reliability, and scoring of the measure. So you'll be able to find this at the bottom of the standardized measure. So short assignment number 2 starts along the lines of the same vignettes that you had from short assignment number 1, but here you're going to be using the operationally defined problem and using it to create a goals table. So there's some more information in the vignette. You can read it yourself, but basically we're going to be using the same exact characters from the short assignment number 1, but developing like further steps. So the vignette changes a little bit in that it more specifically defines that Jim has come to you to report or to track his abstinent days in a small drinking diary that he carries around with him. So here you're operationally defined as number of days abstinent per week or number of days abstinent per month, whatever you'd want to specify. But there's a little asterisk here saying that you should list at least 2 verifying sources. So this could be something like a friend, a colleague. You could even use like bank statements to see where he's spending his money. If it's at liquor stores, if he would be comfortable sharing that with you. But you could use some license, like artistic license here, if you had an idea of what might be a good verifying source, such as a drug test or something along those lines. And Jane, we're looking at the same thing. Only in the second paragraph here, it kind of writes out what you would want to put in your goals table. So it even has our intermediate goals of increasing new volunteers by 50% by the end of 3 months, increasing agency volunteers by the end of 6 months. So this already has half your goals table written out for you, and I'll show you what that means below. So here's the goals table, and I've got another video posted about how to fill this out, but the client concern for Jim would be that he's afraid about returning to alcohol based on a DSM-5 diagnostic interview. You could say that he meets DSM criteria for substance use disorder. Problem operationally defined as number of days abstinent within a week. Verifying sources, like we said, could be bank statements, could be a friend, could be a roommate. Intermediate goal might be to attend 2 AA meetings per week, and an outcome goal could be to attend 5 AA meetings per week and have a sponsor, whatever it might be. Intervention methods could be joining Alcoholics Anonymous, remaining engaged in treatment, whatever you think would make more sense. The second one is probably easier. Jane, the client concern is just that the agency wants to recruit more volunteers. Operationally defined problem, number of new volunteers recruited per month. Verifying sources could be like the log of volunteers on file. Intermediate goals, increasing the number of volunteers by 50%. Outcome goals, increasing volunteers by 100% from the baseline average. Intervention methods could be putting something on social media or putting up flyers around the town. Also worth pointing out on the bottom, there's assessments and procedures. So for the assessment for the first one, gym, could be the DSM-5, could be a more standardized measure for alcohol consumption or alcohol dependency. You could also write for Jane, maybe like a program analysis looking at number of new volunteers recruited. And facilitative goals are basically goals that are along the way that help you to get to where you're going. So it could be joining Alcoholics Anonymous, finding a sponsor, developing a social media web page for recruiting more volunteers. All of those would be facilitative goals. And I'm not going to spend as much time on this problem, but it does make people nervous that there's any kind of math involved in the assignment. So I would just say for this one, I just want to get you somewhat familiar with what's going on behind the scenes. Most statistical packages kind of do this for you, but it's good just to get an example of what it is to do it by hand. So here, the baseline intervention, there's 10 data points, and B phase, the intervention phase, has 10 data points. And there's an example on the website of how to do this. You're basically just going to be following the same steps, but with different numbers. So if you pull up this calculating the delta index, you'll see how to figure out the averages, which is the mean for the baseline and the intervention phase. Same exact steps, just substituting different numbers. Computing the standard deviation, which is essentially just subtracting the baseline mean from each one of the individual data points and squaring these results to figure out your standard deviation. So once you figure out these values, you're just going to plug them right in here, and should be easy enough to figure this out. And I just kind of point out that this is more based on effort than actually getting the numbers right. So if you put in the effort, you'll get credit for it. If you don't get the numbers right, I'll tell you what they are and how to figure it out next time. And then lastly, but probably most importantly, part C is to complete your introduction section, which is basically just going to be an introduction to single system design. Just one paragraph talking about the benefits of it. You'll figure out more about this in the syllabus and in the syllabus video. But for the assignment, you're just going to want to create a goals table and an introduction for your client. So typically about one paragraph is sufficient to introduce your client. Filling out the goals table, most people do something about improving the number of minutes of exercise they get per week, or per day rather. So filling out the goals table, you want to move from left to right. So client concern that most people do is lack of exercise. The problem operationally defined could be number of minutes of exercise the client gets per 24 hour. Verifying source could be number of times they've gone to the gym based on a gym record, or having a classmate or maybe a Fitbit being a verifying source. You could put something like increasing number of minutes exercise per day from the baseline by 50%, increasing to the outcome, which could be increasing exercise by 75% from the baseline average, and your intervention could be something like joining a gym or something simple like that. Again, you're not going to be graded based on the quality of your intervention, but more about your ability to apply these measurement concepts to your own paper. Other examples I've seen in the past is quality of sleep. So you could have a client concerned about not getting enough sleep. Problem operationally defined as number of minutes of sleep the client gets per 24 hours. Verifying sources could be something like if you had an Apple Watch, or there's things on your phone that can measure the amount of sleep that you've gotten. An intermediate goal could be to increase average number of minutes of sleep by 50% from the baseline, or you could do it in reverse, like decreasing nighttime awakenings by 50% from the baseline average, or decreasing number of nighttime awakenings by 90% from the baseline average. And again, I wouldn't focus so much on the intervention because this is more of a measurement course. But again, just to alleviate any kind of pressure that you might be putting on yourself, you do get one opportunity to redo any of these assignments if there's anything that's missing or significant areas for improvement, which I hope takes the pressure off the assignment and more focuses your attention on learning how to do this.